Hello. Let's get this party started. Oh no, this thing's got ED. Now I really gotta fix this lamp. What? I guess that's gonna have to be. Oh, that looks nice. This right over there. I'm going to trip on that. I'm going to move this guy because he keeps this thing safe at night. All right, now we can get to business. Hello, this is Dustin the Husky, and I'm going to share to you today my other car. Whether if you know that I've owned a second car for quite some time, now you'll find out. Or for those who have already known, here we are. So this is my childhood car. I mean childhood meaning I grew up with it. This is, actually I'm the third owner of this car. My dad was the second. Owned it for much of the time as cars existed. And we know the first owner, Alberto Lassard, from the infamous to famous, depending on how you look at it, Lassard versus Wisconsin State of 1971 court case. This was her car. The only car she's ever owned. She bought it brand new. She ordered it brand new, and we'll look into that in just a little moment. This is a 1967 Buick Skylark Sport Coupe. My opinion, one of the better looking Skylarks they've ever made in its nameplate history. And again, I'm biased because it's mine. This was my dad's work car for, well, all of the 1980s and much of the 1990s. Has run into a lot of things. It's been restored twice. It's been painted twice. And currently, it's mine. My dad needed money. Well, he owed me a lot of money, and, well, you know what? It worked out all right. It was a car I wanted anyway. I think this is going to be opposite world. But, key fob. And all of the other associated keys for one car. Because each key does something different. One of them I has no idea what it actually does. One of them's ignition. One of them's trunk. One of them is door. And I think the other one is glove box. But I actually don't know. But of all of the original keys, the octagonal ignition key is the only one still original from the original set of car keys with this car. And bullshit behind this is a one-year-only key. GM made the same damn key from 1940 to 1966, then changed it in 1967 to be slightly different. Then in 1968 until I believe like 1980 or some mess like that. They changed it one more time until, you know, the square GM ignition key that everyone born in the late 70s and 80s or 90s would know an old GM key happens to be square for ignition. This comes from a time when it was all octagonal. And this is a 1-year only key, so it's bullshit, but hey, I bought a crap ton of spares because, again, bullshit. So, yeah, it's a D-color code car. It's actually a it's a June, first week of June, 1967 produced car. So this is a relatively late production car. They made 40,000 of them, and there are chickens entering my garage. No, for real, look. Come on, chickens. Where are you? Where the bastards go? Oh, there you are. For real though, chickens in Franklin. Alright. Well, anyway, as I got distracted by chickens because I have to run them out anyway, we'll continue. So yeah, this is a late model year 67 Skylark. It's a 4417 series body. I believe it's an H code car. Or no, it's an H engine code car, which is I don't know if it has an RPO code by this time, because GM we're beginning to put RPO codes on their cars sometime in the 1960s. Not an old-time thing for GM. They only started doing it in the last 50 years for our RPO codes. For engine-wise only, but for options, there were only single or double-digit codes. That's it. This is a 300 cubic inch engine. Literally same engine as a 340. This thing's got a ST300 transmission, 2-speed Buick Power Glide, no relation to Chevy Power Glide. And it's got a 293 rear gear ratio on the back axle. Whether if I know if it's a positive traction or not, I actually don't know, because the 273 rear axle ratios didn't have limited slip. That wasn't even an option for that ratio. The 293 has both LSD and non-LSD variations. Like every other GM rear axle will have variation of both. On the lowest gear, well, really highest gear, well, really for highway speeds, this car is fantastic on highways. You want to get something like a 343 or a 393 or even 423 gear ratios you could order with these cars, but they're good for only city driving. But on highways, it's a dog. This thing is an absolute highway beast of a car. 2 speeds is all you need. Shifts at 20 miles an hour, feels like a hammer sliding across the floor, and you're in action. 210 brake horsepower engine. So you might be looking at 200 horses actually getting to the rear wheels. Maybe 200, probably 190. But outside of the car and nothing else attached to it, it will make 210, but it will now because the engine's been rebuilt. But yeah, it's a two-barrel carburetor. I rebuilt it several times just to make it even more smooth idling, and these engines never idle smoothly. And you know what? I've made sure that this engine is as smoothed out as possible for idle, and it's still not smooth. But that's just GM V8s for their time. Even in the 1980s, GM V8s were always kind of rough idling. You can get them to tune up quite nice to idle smooth, but you know what? For the most part, the further back you go on GM V8s, the more rougher they really are. And you can tune them out as best you can, but you can never fully iron out the rough on these old iron beasts. So, still a project car. You know what, I can keep the trickle charger on it, because I always keep the battery on trickle charger. But yeah, 300 cubic inch engine. I painted a few parts myself just to kind of, you know, it look pretty. It's not a, this ain't a show car. As you can tell by the small amounts of surface rust, this car will not win any concours d'élégance awards. No way. I will win an award for maybe having a rare variant. There aren't many 300s left of this body style anymore. And this is also a factory AC car, but my dad ripped out the AC for more power, because this thing will literally sap 20 horses from the belt drive just to power the air compressor, not the air compressor, but the AC compressor, which this thing is huge. I still have it. It's one of those final frontier things of if I really, really want to get it going, if I ever want to get it back to being an AC car. But, yeah. So, 300 cubic inch V8, or that comes out to 4.9 liters. 2-barrel carburation, Rochester 2GC. I mean, it's a fully complete car. It needs a new floor, but beyond that, it don't need a whole lot much. And this is body on frame, and the frame on this thing is absolutely robust as American thighs. There would be courtesy lights, but they're somehow not turning on. I think on this door they don't turn on. The door switch is kind of weird on it, but yeah. And closes like a thunk. Between 66s and 67s, the rear ends on these 67s actually look quite nice. It's actually a really nice looking car. This is, well, again, you know, your flying buttress rear end, or your rear glass styling, which, here's a fun fact about these GM A-body cars for coupes. Only for coupes. The sedans, wagons, oddly enough convertibles, they didn't leak, at least not one brand new. The rear windows of these two-door pillared posts, or the two-door sedan and the two-door hard top. So the back trim on the very, very bottom has a gutter. Well, often enough, this gutter is actually designed to leak on purpose into a channel, and it's supposed to come out the side of the car. So it's got its own rain gutter system, which I don't know why. Well, over time, that rain gutter system gets clogged, builds up, moisture leaks, rusts away, and then it's going into your trunk pan. Which, the trunk is huge. Let's see. I always forget which key it is. So that's definitely not the trunk key. Ooh, and it even popped up. Normally I have to push down on it. Maybe it's fixing itself. Oh, cool, I got more coolant. Yeah, full of parts and whatnot. It's got some trim pieces that I could probably put on. Look at this trunk mat here. Spare tire. Don't think it's original, but I think it's a 1970s tire. Because the tread pattern, not the tread pattern, but the actual marking of the tire is indicative of 70s tire style. As far as sizing. 60s. This was, I think, 775/14, which is just a weird way of marking tires, but back then was pretty normal. You even have your jacking information with a bumper jack, which I will never want to use, because these things are widowmakers. Yeah, this is just kind of how they always are. Well, your bumper jack's right here. Again, would never dare to ever want to use one. But the trolley jack and placement on the frame is a good idea to put it. Yeah, this is literally how bare as they are. There was an optional trunk decor piece that was hardened folded cardboard painted in this nice speckle finish that would actually hide the sides of the car. This is actually the outer skin of the car. That was an option. Of course, my car was barely optioned out. This car mechanically was well optioned to be a highway puller, but luxury item for a Buick was the AC. And that was it. There wasn't many other options besides the AM radio, which isn't in the car anymore. Would like to find a small little trim piece for it, but I'm kind of screwed on that. But the specials didn't have this trim piece. But this was a daily driven car. Also, too, in the old sense, your fuel would go in there, which you barely can see it. Nope, can't see it. Wait, can I shine some? I guess you can sort of see it. It's a pain in the ass to fill this thing up. This thing's got a brand new tank, which you can barely see. Can I turn the... No, I can't. One day I'll have to do an underneath view of the car. This car... Well, hubcaps I have at home, but trying to kind of repaint them. These are almost impossible to find. Like a lot of parts on this car. Just really hard enough to find trim pieces. It's good enough you have a complete car. But yeah, the floor... It needs a whole new floor on the inside, but beyond that, the car is almost getting there. Kind of happy and proud to try to get this thing up and going. Also, a little bit of a, I guess you would say something from Alberta's time. This is not the original side view mirror. It does have some pitting, so it's actually original. It's been on the car long enough. This is a 1968 Skylark mirror. But in 1968, a year after this car was bought and owned by Alberta, this was a remote moving mirror. She knocked it off. So she decided to get rid of the original mirror and went to a Buick dealership and say, I want to replace a mirror. Well, they're going to replace the remote mirror with the cable, which apparently cost a lot of money back then. And she said, no. Okay, you know what? We'll go cheap this time. What's the cheapest mirror you can put on? Well, we got 68 models. We got a whole bunch of parts that came in. We could fit one of those on, and it will cost you only a quarter as much. It's like, oh, cool. And as far as I know, this is the only 67 dated Buick that I know of in pictures that has a 68 mirror installed, period, from back when this car was still new. So yes, it's not correct, but it is period correct because it's been on the car for nearly 50 years. Actually, 53 years. There we go. So we have courtesy light on one side. One bulb's dead. Dome lights have forever been dead since the 90s. I've never... Honestly, I grew up in the back seat of this car, which you can see is quite nice. Original interior, the front seats are knackered, bench seats. Could be redone, but yeah, to think that I grew up just watching that horizontal speedometer kind of grow, or kind of advance to the century. Interior lighting is absolutely pathetic. One day when I tear apart the dashboard for replacement of not the radio, but to rebuild the radio and put in a new speaker and probably a new heater core, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea to change when all this is out. The dash illumination is pretty pathetic in this car, and you can see where the original mirror remote switch used to be, but that's been long gone. That was an option on this car that didn't survive to this day. So, this car's got 43,000 miles. Well, that's kind of fantastic. Well, add another 100,000. This thing's got 143,000, and it's been rebuilt. And that brake pressure still feels really, really good. Oh yeah. So actually, the gas gauge, I don't know if it dropped a bit, but this did have a full tank. This, my dad's been siphoning it out. But that dash illumination's pretty pathetic. Just something to change eventually. I have no idea where that came from. It's got a little pod thing, but I didn't put that in there. Got your cigarette lighter, or your owner's manual, which is actually intact on this car, and metal. So when this thing was open and you got into an accident, you decapitate your kneecaps. It's actually too bad I don't have a light. Dash pad is intact on this car, but the steering wheel is taking a bit of a beating. I just have to be really, really gentle with it. I can't get reproductions. I can replace the wheel, but I want an original style wheel, and I just can't get it. The horn wants to go, but it's not honking. Anyway, absolutely beautiful car. And today, I'm going to try to get it started. Alright, this thing is going to have to go, because I'm just going to start tripping all over it, so... Oh, no. Okay. There we go. Because I don't want to keep tripping on this damn thing all the time. So, this thing hasn't started since the fall of 2019, so it's kind of... wait, is my lights on? Yeah, my lights are on. I'm on parking light setting. Don't need that. Also, too, the interior's got late 1967 parts that were part of a safety package program for GM to make sure that in an accident, you wouldn't be punctured by many sharp things in the car. Early 67 model year Skylarks had different knobs and other accoutrements. In January 1st, 1967, they had to change it to, meet federal mandates to make sure that occupant safety was number one. This thing's got a collapsible steering column, so this firewall is 1 year only. This thing's actually got dual master cylinder. Standard. In 66, that was an option, but in 67, it was made mandatory by the federal government. It had to be, because they found out single master cylinders, once one line went out, you had no brakes throughout the whole car. Dual means you have your fronts and you have your rears. If one of them goes, you still have brakes somewhere on the car. So, well, I may as well get some coolant in the old girl. And you know what? Since there's some coolant inside the trunk, I may as well actually grab that. Oh, I got some starting fluid too. That's kind of fantastic. I don't know, maybe the gas is kind of evaporating from the tank. It is a vented tank. I may as well take this off. Come on. Come on. Ugh. So, got a new upper radiator hose. It needs a new lower, but since my dad's girlfriend works in the healthcare sector, I'm not really able to really visit them as often to work on the car so much, so oh! Shit! I hadn't realized this thing was that thirsty. You know what? I'm actually quite surprised it didn't need that much coolant. Sometimes it goes through a whole gallon just because the radiator is not shot, but it's got pinholes on the top, so it evaporates after a while. Frankly, it's going to get replaced someday, maybe within the year anyway, because eventually you just want to make sure on an old car it's got plenty of coolant and it's got a good radiator, hose system, water pump, just to make sure the good old iron don't overheat, which on these cars it'll take a lot to warp the decks on these things, but you want to make sure that you keep your classic car pretty cool. Unless you're driving at an 100-degree heat, and at that point it's just impossible. And this thing has a transmission cooler line, which probably wouldn't hurt to which actually it wouldn't hurt, because you also these older cars have transmission coolers built into the actual radiator. Oh, this thing might be. Oh, okay, there we go. All right. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I set it like that. Thing is going to be very, very dry, but it's probably going to be incredibly happy knowing that it's going to start to crank over. But since it's carbureted, it's going to be a cold bitch. So now that thing started, actually starts quite healthy too. I'm not going to take it for a spin, but just doing some more ancillary stuff. Master brake cylinder could use maybe a little bit more fluid. It's been bled out, but it was strange to have the pedal kind of go all the way to the floor, but not really, but good enough to know that this thing, and actually, normally, this thing is a bitch. It's a cold-hearted bitch. Because often enough, you'll keep cranking and cranking and cranking and cranking, and the thing won't move. Well, just a little bit of starting fluid with upper cylinder lubricant. Which apparently this thing is actually leaking. This thing is so old. Actually, it was a few years ago. Me and a local cyber husky, we did some work on this car, and we did pretty much everything fuel delivery and ignition system stuff. Pretty much anything that could be either replaced was replaced. And the thing runs like a top. In fact, even if it is a cold bitch, this thing will now start up. Even if you have to crank it just a little bit, it will actually start up for once. I actually want to know how much coolant it actually took while starting that. Probably not a whole lot much, because the thermostat must have not opened up right away. So what I'm probably going to do is, I don't know, I might maybe let it run for 5 minutes just to kind of, keys must be still in the car. Yeah, might just let it run for 5-10 minutes just to get the thermostat to open, have the water pump start sucking in any of the water into the passageways or the water jacket, and just kind of see how much it takes, because it wouldn't be a bad idea to get that going. So it's slightly warm, but it's going to be cold. So let's start up on the first crank now. Nope, we got to put some throttle effort into it. Definitely want to knock off some whatever carbon that might be just lingering around. It's good to rev it up, but if your car doesn't have a tachometer or a rev counter, if you're in Europe, definitely don't get with the accelerator pedal. I want to lose my intake cleaner gasket. A whole whopping $2 for one. And that's a stock standard muffler. And it's not original, but it is exactly made to original specifications. And that's just how it sounds. Let's see. Let me turn this off for a change. Whoop. And this is kind of what you're looking at night. It's a Skylark, but she'll be mean. She runs like a raped ape and running on lead additive. She is a beaut, though. Let's see. Also, too, Buick was putting reflective markers on their doors when they're open at night. It's actually kind of nice. Also, I have no idea when this got spray painted. This is the original GM Mark of Excellence, which I'm sure I could maybe scratch off a little bit. It's a shame, because that's a teal marker right there. But every front two doors of any GM vehicle built this time would have it. Alright, let's actually see. Got my heater on. Alright. The cap is only slightly warm. Well, hoses. Okay, it's... Oh. I see. So she is warm. I mean, the coolant is flowing. It is getting warm. What about in here? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely getting to the heater core. Could use new hoses for those, too, but you know what? The car would never be driven in winter. But the idea is to at least have a car that is fully functional in every way. And also, too, trying to get the windshield washer fluid to work. And the wiper motor will only park wherever it wants. I think I just have to play around with that a bit. Also, too, the data plate for the body right there. And the VIN number is tagged on the front, well, actually, really the front door of any GM car. Oh, no! Did this thing finally bite the dust on me? Actually, the rubber is still intact, but I think the post finally went, but these are replaceable, so I'm not too concerned about that. And I have to fix my dad's oops. Paint it the right color, and then drill the holes out. And then I got to fix my own oops, because I was a dumbass and being overzealous, and I had to open the door while the car was jacked up, and not my proudest work here. Luckily, it's not too much. I can lightly cover that up, but not my proudest work, though. Let's see. My dad's workshop. And a 39 horse, actually it's a Ford type EGA. Or it's also known as a KFZ 81. No, it's a KFZ 69. Or it's a horse type 40. I think so. Maybe. Let's see. Well, here's a cloth. Let's just walk over here. Let's see if the chickens are Nope, no chickens. Chicken's fucked off. Good. Is it still hot? Yeah, it's only... Whoop. And, whoa, actually it's still full. So actually, really, the radiator is really the only place where it's leaking. I thought there's got to be other places for it to leak too, but to be honest, you can tell if your thermostat is opened is when you... Ooh, yeah, that thing is warm. You can tell that your thermostat housing right here has opened up when your upper radiator hoses, or just radiator hoses or heater core hoses in general, have warmed up. This is starting to slightly warm up. You can tell that's opened up when this gets warm, which means your radiator gets hot. Hence that. And these batteries are fucking expensive. Technically, this is a tractor battery now. And also, your some of your AC lines are still hooked up. The AC compressor bracket is still mounted on the car. If it was a non-AC car, it wouldn't have that. Also, why this hole is there too is for the AC as well. GM doesn't waste material on non-AC cars, so that wouldn't be there either. So again, just kind of weirdness. I wonder if I could replace one of these things. I'm not sure, but this is technically the where the bird cage is for your blower fan. Your voltage regulator, your master cylinder brake booster setup, which works quite good for being an original, but I don't know, maybe in 10 years' time I'd maybe want to replace it fully, just with a newer brake booster. The master cylinder works fine. I wouldn't replace it so much. I might even clean it up, but the brake booster, I don't know. Maybe I'd want to maybe change it someday. Something I'm not too reliant on a older unit, but my car is running on mostly original brake material, hardware and whatnot. Car is not a show car, but it is a complete car, and with a little bit more work, she won't take too long before she's a full complete car. I have no idea what that is. I actually have no idea what that is, if that's just a diagnostic lead for servicing, which back then GM cars didn't come with computers. So I have no idea what that's for. Finding one of these brand new is a pain in the ass, but they make reproductions of these washer bottles, which literally like fall apart as you look at them. Asbestos lining, which yum. Just a really fabulous car. Now to put this on. I'm actually really thoroughly impressed about that it didn't take that much coolant to actually, use. It doesn't hurt to have more than enough coolant for your classic car, because believe me, you're going to need it. You know what, we'll see if this thing will even start. Right away, we'll get an in-cab view of what's going on. I mean... this thing has no tilt wheel. Alright. So, again, there is no light whatsoever here, and of course, every single Skylark that I've ever known, which I can't really see. Oh, there it is. There's a clock right there. Well, this thing doesn't have one. Like 90% of all Skylarks, specials, and GSs, they never had, well, it's not they never had a clock. They were never bothered to be optioned out with a clock. And at 120 mile per hour speedometer, you know what? My dad's been able to get it up to 100 a few times back in the day. So this thing can do, I would say 110 before it poops out. Really, your only gauge you have is a fuel gauge. And everything else is idiot lights, which, to be honest, I'm perfectly fine with, because even if you're looking at gauges, by the time something pops up, you're already fucked. Lights where you're now, okay, the perfect thing to have is both. Having an idiot light matched to an actual gauge. The idiot light should turn on long before anything is wrong. But no, you either have idiot lights or a gauge, and both will tell you you fucked up. So, and, yeah. I don't know. Oh, it's building up pressure. Okay, so... yeah, there is a short somewhere. Or there is a grounding issue with the rear taillights. They'll work. Ooh. As you can tell, the lights are on back there. But there's a grounding issue that I have to find out, which I may end up having to ground each taillight manually, just to make sure that it just works. Also, too, 1967, first year for hazard lights. So that's a new feature. Anyway, let's give this thing a go. So that's what you get. Let's see if it'll turn on. Wow, on the first go, without having to use any foot. So this is what I mean by late 67 model type of knobs. These used to be a lot more like grab handle knob, like chrome knurling. I believe that's your lighter. Yeah, so this thing has a lighter, but there's an accessory knob that a lot of these cars never got optioned out with, or I believe it could have been for convertibles too. Let's see. Oh, that's fucked. So on most cars, you would do righty-tighty for your dash light adjustment. This thing is the opposite. That's wild. And of course, everything is all exposed underneath here. That's just part of a typical GM car. Actually, any car from this time period was always this exposed. Hell, even your AC and your heater hoses are all exposed. Really, this came from a time when just cars, you didn't really complain too much about what you got. And it seemed either my dad siphoned a bit of the gas out of the tank, because this was full for a time. I mean, the engine kind of rocks just only slightly, but the mounts are still in good shape though. I guess between now and then there was a little bit of gas evaporation going on, if that was really the case, which actually isn't so bad. It's not a bad idea to get this thing going too. But my foot goes sort of to the floor with the brake, which I forget if that was normal or not. On an older car, it's just hard enough to know, but I'd rather put more .3 in it. Wait. There we go, get that working just a little bit. Clean out the magnets or whatever it's got on it. The interior is intact. Like, this is a fully intact car on the inside. You know, being through 3 I know it's actually 2 restorations. The interior survived everything, but the original AM radio was gone. The Sonomatic Buick radio is gone. The 5-button push-button AM only radio. Was thinking about replacing it, but you know what? This thing's got an 80s tape deck. But I don't know. I'm actually growing to the improvements my dad made on it when he was younger, so it stays. And this is gonna be oh yeah, there is effortless power steering. Maybe it's the booster. I don't know. I think we've had our fun here today. Actually, here, let's... Yeah, you only get 3 idiot lights. Your oil, temperature, and that's your generator light. That's all red. And of course, the little bar underneath the 0 to 10 miles per hour is your brake light. That will only go off when your foot's on the brake. So you know you're fucked when you are stopping. It doesn't automatically turn on. It just tells you you're fucked. Let's see. Oh, no, now it's... It's got its mood swings. Sometimes it'll turn on without your input, and sometimes it needs it. It's probably incredibly happy that it's being turned on for the long time that it has been. And we'll finally kill it off. Whoa, my door. And I'm actually getting warm. That's just being outside, not the car itself, but I'm sure it's still kinda... Actually, it's not smoking. Sure, this thing's gotta be... Oh yeah. She'd be warm. Let's take a look at the Oh yeah. What about the lower one? Can I touch the lower one? Oh yeah. Okay. So who knows? Maybe the heater core is working. It just might be clogged. But since it's original, I'd rather replace it anyway, because that's all copper lead solder units, the ones that typically tend to leak out anyway. So it's gonna have to go. Oh, there we go. And then this has been a long time coming for me. Well, in the last year, to get this thing kinda not back running, like it's not ever ran. It's just kinda here. Let me. Ooh, I am wet husk. Now the fun begins with putting the stupid air cleaner on, which has one small top hole that you have to feel in the dark, even when it's light. Oh, there we go. Wow, that actually took a lot less fingering around to put it back on. She's a boat. And really only 17 feet long, and this is considered compact intermediate. You think this is a big car. This is actually considered mid-size back in the 1960s. This is large-size car today. In today's parlance, this is considered executive size. To modern EPA vehicle sizing standards, this is considered an executive car. But back then, its official term for I don't even think EPA was around back then, but its official size was called compact intermediate, which I think Ford capitalized on the mid-size terminology back then, so GM couldn't use that, but yeah. That's all from the coolant. She does leak a bit of oil, but that's okay. That's kind of to be expected. Maybe another time I'll come back to, oh yeah, this poor bumper needs to get polished. It's been so long since I did a good wash and polish on this car. Also, too, IFC. It's a good con. Anyway, thanks for spending nearly a whole hour of your time just to watch me turn a car on. But for your entertainment. And maybe learn a little bit something about a car that you don't normally see on the road much anymore. In fact, I saw one at a car show a few weeks ago at Iola. It was a 67 convertible. And it's just rare to see any 66 or 67, which there was a 66 there as well, another convertible. These are rare cars. My dad parted out the last one in '89 in the States, so finding a parts car, it's impossible now. Few people keep junkers of this type of car, especially the two doors, which is one that not many people want to part with. I can understand, because I have a fully complete car, and it's a forever car. It'll never leave my side ever. It carried me around growing up, and it's going to carry me some more later in life, so it's a gentle giant. Anyway, thanks for taking in the time to just watch this video. Something different. Haven't been posting much on YouTube lately just because, just busy. But I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something new. Hopefully I can get a video of this car on the road. Once I can figure out what's going on with the brakes, I would not want to just put the thing in reverse and just have it back into the back lot of this garage. Or I could put a chalk on it. Interesting. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. And catch you on the next episode. Not sure what it's going to be about, but you know, it's going to be the ordinary stuff. So, thanks for tuning in, and have a good one.